Hello, I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. These weekly confessions are going to run 15 minutes, maybe a little longer. But Season 6 continues to be the exploration of how, if you're optimizing for AI citations, it is not like SEO. Welcome to episode 24 of Confessions. I'm calling this one the Tweak Trap and the Mechanics of Index Volatility. I will explain. So welcome back to Confessions. This is Carolyn. Today we need to have an honest talk about something that isn't discussed enough in our industry. It's not a new tool, a new schema, a new layout. It's a psychological state. It's the raw, uncomfortable, sometimes agonizing silence of the aftermath in SERPs and then what we do about it. If you've been following my research at VizzEx, you know I'm deep in the trenches of an intensive, highly controlled recovery case study on one of my test domains. It's a site that was devastated by the helpful content classifier. It reduced hundreds of pages that were indexed down to a baseline of 1. To fix it, I did not throw any content at it at all. In fact, I installed VizzEx. I removed the content that contained the hidden divs that were part of the indexation testing and were part of the reason why it was keeled. I executed a radical math hack, and that basically was where I strategically removed the noise, the signal noise from the domain. And what I did was I unpublished over 180 legacy test pages. So by doing that, I sort of curated a hyper-focused cluster of exactly 34 structurally sound pages based on the information that VizzEx provided me. And I completed this work in late April. And then I waited. And then I waited a little more. And then I got impatient. On June 6th, I triggered a manual recrawl via the Search Console of the homepage. And the server logs showed a flawless mechanical handshake. And basically the Symmetry Gate was verified. So I waited until June 12th. And on that date, I resubmitted the XML sitemaps with the thought I wanted to direct the crawlers retaining, budget for crawling the site to specifically crawl those 34 pages. Now, I did everything by the book. Now, I then waited, and I waited some more. And on this past Sunday, Google Search Console's index page report updated with the date stamp of the data as up to June 7th. So got all excited. I opened up the dashboard and I looked at the screen and there it was. Index pages. 1? It's still just the home page? Now, to anyone trained in legacy SEO, you know what I'm about to say. The SEO immediate instinct is an overwhelming urge to do something. You think it didn't work. I need to fix something. I need to, I need to log into WordPress right now, tweak a header, adjust an internal anchor link, rewrite a paragraph, and then submit. And we've been conditioned to believe that the constant movement equals progress. But in the modern sensor-driven AI content pipeline, that exact urge is a fatal trap. We are digging our own graves. We are dying by 1,000 tweaks. And I can explain why I say it. Let's pull back the curtain and talk about the actual mechanics of what happens under the hood of a modern search engine when you save a, quote, minor edit, unquote. Now, these are new findings from my current research. We have to throw away this 2010 model of search. Google does not spider by crawling content and updates on a nice, neat schedule. The system is now split into separate layers, each with a different purpose and timeline. So we have the sort of flash index, the real-time agentic RAG layer used for the AI rag grounding, where they come up with these live AI citations. This is the real fire and brimstone aspect of citations. No question ever left unanswered. And at the same time, we still have the canonical index, the search index, which is slow, delayed, batch processed database, which determines the order of the standard search page results. To keep this massive machine running without collapsing under its own weight in computational costs, Google now operates its helpful content, read that as helpful content, that the system, that it works now as a dynamic cloud-based microservice, kind of classifier as a service, a CAS. So this CAS does not look at your site once, stamp it helpful, and just walk away. Instead of a once and done, it establishes an active monitoring window. And this system is hypersensitive to the frequency of the changes on your domain. Not in a good way either. I mean, if you are experiencing pages that are crawled but not indexed, you want to be paying attention to this, because this system seems to have a clock that starts running when you make an edit. So that if you make another edit before that clock has run a certain period of time, the system will throw your page back to the end of the line. And when you fall into the if you're tweaking your content, if you fall into the tweak trap, this is the exact mechanical chain you trigger. So you open a post that you recently changed and you want to correct a minor edit to a header, or you want to adjust something. And so you do that and then you click update. Now, assuming you're in WordPress, but this is basically true for all CMS, content management systems, the moment you hit that button, the WordPress post database table updates its timestamp, which then triggers your SEO plugin, whether it's Rank Math or Yoast or something that you're using to create your sitemap. It detects this database change and updates the date for that specific URL inside your physical XML sitemap. That triggers Googlebot's scheduler, which is constantly polling your sitemap at a low cost to them. And when they see that updated stamp on the URL in the sitemap, two things happen. The scheduler is designed to prioritize freshness, so it definitely wants to go. And it is also designed to minimize resource consumption. So the moment it registers that that page has changed, it pulls that URL out of the awaiting indexation queue where it was when you made the original tweak. And so that page that you updated a second time could be on day 11 of this day 12 cycle. Now, what happens is the system says, hold on, this page is unstable. The publisher is still modifying the layout, so do not commit this page to the permanent canonical index yet. Send it back to the heavy render verification queue. Now, it does this in seconds, okay? But by saving a minor tweak, let's say on day 5 from the last time you made that edit, maybe because you were anxious about the indexation status, you probably did it to speed things up. But the problem is you didn't speed things up. What you did, however, was trigger what is essentially a big deal in terms of signal. So you forced the dynamic classifier, the helpful content, to reset its 12-day truth clock. Now, that is not an arbitrary number. That is a period of continuous checking to make sure that your structure stability is set. And Google requires this to calculate your site's entity relationships. So whatever day you were on, if you've created a tweak some point in that that window where it was waiting to take that page. If you updated that page a second time, quicker than like 12 or 13 days, you're now starting over at day 0. By making that tiny little tweak because you panicked, you manually reset your own probation clock on your own content, and you didn't even know you were doing it. So the question is, why is this system so unforgiving to these micro adjustments? Like, what's the big deal? So it comes down to a concept I've recently written a lot about, and I'm speaking about more and more, and it's called the compounding compute tax. Now, this is what the AI and systems are paying to calculate our content. So we have to realize that Google is all about maintaining its budget, right? So it spent the last several years, and these are cost reasons, offloading its massive rendering budget onto the infrastructure of the web and the end user. Soon, maybe next week, I'm going to share what I discovered in some testing about those mechanisms that Google now relies on to render pages. I'll get that into a future episode. So make sure you subscribe to Confessions of an SEO wherever you get your podcasts. Anyway, so when Google's own bots execute a crawl, they aren't just reading your text. What they're also doing is they're running a full layout calculation to verify the symmetry gate. And I'll explain what that is, proving to itself, and likely for much content for the very first time ever, that your raw HTML source and your rendered DOM possess a one-to-one structural parity. They basically say the same thing. What you say to a human matches exactly what you said to the machine. And here's why, knowing all that, why it pays to sit on your hands when all you want to do is make a change. Every time you make one of those quick tweaks, you force Google to throw away what they had previously cached in their pre-computations. You compel a high-cost cloud rendering engine to refresh, reparse, re-execute the entire dependency chain of your layout, your CSS, and your scripts. On a domain like my test domain, which is already recovering from a helpful content penalty, the rendering budget for this domain is severely restricted. It's on the don't worry about crawling this right away list. Google is counting its pennies. So if the scheduler sees a domain generating constant, rapid, computational demands because the owner keeps adding, changing, or deleting minor elements like a paranoid perfectionist, the system flags the site as a resource drain, a downer. This is not good for that site. And to protect its margins, that's why Google schedulers just simply stands down. It drops your URLs into that frustrating purgatory of crawled, currently not indexed. So I go back again. What do SEOs do when they see their pages marked as crawled, currently not indexed? They go back into the CMS, make more tweaks to improve the page, resubmit it, and effectively tax themselves right out of the index. It's a feedback loop of self-destruction. So how do we break this loop we just learned about? What's the cure? How do we survive in an environment where the helpful content classifier is running as an automated continuous microservice? Well, the cure is proportionately as simple as it is difficult. We simply must stop making edits once we've made a batch of them. And here is what I'm preparing as like a step-by-step protocol that we're instituting at VizzEx for sites that have had existing content and have problems keeping their pages indexed. First you have to establish your baseline audit with the VizzEx app, which is a horizontal content analysis of your articles. And you want to quickly work through a couple rounds of recommendations. Now, these are page structures and specific interlinking concepts within your content, all designed to connect everything together. So then deploy the VizzEx relational schema that's based on the analysis, that horizontal content analysis. Now, this schema is not like that flat crap that you get from Yoast or Rank Math or some of the others. But all of this is handled by the plugin, so you're not going to be like wanting to stick needles in your eyes. Once your work is ready to review the link recommendations, you're just going to be copying and pasting links that it created for you for your consideration, and you don't have to figure everything out. You just have to eyeball it and then be able to copy and paste. So VizzEx Pro handles it so that all that visual layer has that one-to-one parity between your source and your rendered DOM. And you want to do all of this at once and make the site as technically perfect as possible and deploy it basically in one clean batch. And secondly, submit your sitemaps or request your homepage once to trigger a crawl. And this is the really important part. Step away from the keyboard. Once your logs show that Googlebot has executed the initial render pass on those VizzEx optimized pages, you must enter into a period of absolute uninterrupted do not disturb for a minimum of 12 days. And it doesn't matter if you find a minor visual layout glitch. Leave it alone. It doesn't matter if you noticed a header you want to change on a post. Leave it alone. And here's the reason why. If the error is fully visible in both the HTML and the DOM, it does not violate the symmetry gate. It's clean. And the compute tax to parse it is negligible. An editorial imperfection, by comparison of a full recrawl, is incredibly cheap. But a scheduler reset on a domain that is already on crawl probation, that is astronomically expensive. I'm working on a way on how to figure out how much that will cost in terms of machine tokens. But let's suffice it to say today, we're just going to say it's a lot and more than you think it should. If you want to know how your structural optimizations are actually performing, you really have to let that 12-day window close without a single database update, not one. So give the helpful content classifier as a service this stable, zero variance environment it needs to calculate and lock in your site's new entity relationships. So once a domain has recovered and its structural integrity is now recognized by the canonical index, that's good, because the site is now recognized as structurally low cost and stable. The publisher can now publish as much new content as frequently as you want without triggering any crawl dampening or having to worry about resetting a truth window. For those in our AI Visibility Mastery program, we have a unified dashboard of Search Console, analytics, and server logs that demonstrates what it looks like when a site hits this structural stability, and it's a beautiful thing. But you must pay that 12-day do not disturb period of time to clear out a site's past debt. And once the record is clean, VizzEx Pro allows you to scale at will. So we're no longer operating in an era where we can bully or trick a search engine into indexing our content through sheer frequency of activity. The modern search ecosystem is a machine built on computational efficiency. It does not reward frantic, hyperactive, micro optimizations. It rewards structural stability, semantic predictability, and those low-cost pages, no friction. And if your site has been hit by a classifier penalty, the hardest work you will ever do is the work where you have to do absolutely nothing. And if you can't master the discipline of the hard freeze, you will remain trapped in the verification loop forever, and that really sucks. So if you're ready to stop guessing, stop tweaking, and start mastering the actual physics of AI visibility, you want to be in our year-long AI Visibility Mastery Program. You missed the newest one that's going to begin on June 17th, but get on the waiting list for the next one. We're going to teach you the exact methodology to analyze, architect, and maintain a highly structured content site that AI systems can easily ingest, trust, and cite. And by using VizzEx software, you let it do the hard lifting so you can focus on your expertise. You can find all the details on VizzEx.ai, and the page is /AI Visibility Mastery. I'll put the link in the description. If you want to run the technical structural audits we use in our research, just get your own license, a VizzEx Pro, and utilize the Symmetry Gate scanner to identify your site's physical parity gaps before our next cohort begins. We're 2.5 months away from the next core update, and this is the perfect time to get out of the feedback loop of self-destruction. Well, that's it for me this week. Thank you for listening. Confessions is sponsored exclusively by VizzEx. VizzEx Pro is our signature app, and it'll guide you to publish content with the lowest computational cost for large language models and AI. It's available for WordPress and HubSpot, and soon more platforms. Remember, keep your signals clear, your HTML honest, and step away from the keyboard every now and then. And I'll see you next week on Confessions of an SEO.